So get this. What if I told you that a 3,000-year-old story about a famine in ancient Egypt holds one of the most powerful and, honestly, timeless secrets to building wealth and finding real financial security today? It's a strategy so simple but so profound, it really has the power to change everything. And the answer is a big, fat yes. Because this isn't just some old story about surviving a crisis. Nope, it's a detailed blueprint for turning a crisis into a massive opportunity. So let's dive in and see how this ancient wisdom can help you build your own modern fortress of wealth. All right, so our story starts with the most powerful man in the world at the time, the Pharaoh of Egypt. He's at the absolute peak of his power, but he's got a problem. He's being haunted by these two really vivid, really disturbing dreams that none of his advisors can make any sense of. Okay, so first he dreams of 7 healthy, fat cows coming up from the Nile River, only to be completely devoured by 7 ugly, skinny cows. Then the dream basically repeats itself. He sees 7 full, healthy ears of grain, and they get swallowed up by 7 withered, blighted ears. The pattern here is crystal clear, right? Abundance is being totally wiped out by scarcity, leaving absolutely nothing behind. So Pharaoh's wise men are completely stumped. He's desperate. So he summons this young Hebrew prisoner named Joseph, who's got a reputation for being able to interpret dreams. Joseph is literally brought up from a dungeon, and what he's about to say won't just save Egypt. It's going to change its destiny forever. Joseph looks the Pharaoh in the eye and tells him, look, these aren't 2 separate dreams. This is one single message from God. It's basically a divine economic forecast. Egypt is about to have 7 years of unbelievable abundance, but it's going to be immediately followed by 7 years of a famine so bad it'll make everyone forget the good times ever even happened. But here's where it gets incredible. Joseph doesn't just drop this bombshell and walk away. No, he offers a solution, a brilliant, simple, and totally revolutionary action plan. He tells Pharaoh to appoint a wise leader to go out and systematically save 1/5 of the entire harvest during those 7 good years. 1/5. That's 20%. Now, this isn't just some random number he pulled out of thin air. This is a disciplined, powerful rule for creating what we'd call a strategic reserve. And this, right here, is the core of what we'll call the Joseph Principle. You have to systematically set aside a piece of your income when times are good to prepare for the lean years that are, inevitably coming. And Pharaoh is just blown away by Joseph's wisdom. He basically says, you're my guy, and puts him in charge of the entire nation, second only to Pharaoh himself. And just like that, one of the biggest, most disciplined national savings projects in all of human history kicks off. So for 7 straight years, while the land is just overflowing with crops, Joseph and his team are collecting that 20% and storing it in cities all across Egypt. And they gathered so much grain that it was like the sand of the sea. They literally couldn't even measure it anymore. I mean, think about that level of discipline, to save on that kind of scale, when it would have been so easy to just consume everything. And this ancient principle, it just perfectly translates to our lives today. In fact, modern financial advisors say the exact same thing. It's not a question of if you'll face a surprise expense or a job loss. It's a question of when. The bad day is coming. The only real question is, are you going to be ready for it? So here's how you do it today. You build your own granary, what we call an emergency fund. First, you figure out what your essential monthly expenses are. Then you shoot for saving 3 to 6 months worth of that. Open a totally separate account so you're not tempted to dip into it. And this is the most important part. Automate it. Make those savings a non-negotiable part of your budget, just like Joseph did for all of Egypt. And sure enough, just as Joseph predicted, after 7 years of plenty, the party came to a screeching halt. The harvests failed, and a devastating famine started to grip the entire region. The lean years had officially arrived. And this was the moment. This was the big payoff. While the rest of the world was literally starving, Egypt had bread. All that preparation, all that discipline during the good times, well, it was now their salvation. They had turned a regional catastrophe into a national security asset. You see, in essence, Joseph's granaries were the world's very first national emergency fund, and they serve the exact same purpose as the fund you need today, a financial safety net that protects you from life's unexpected crises. A car repair, a surprise medical bill, and it keeps you from spiraling into debt when things go sideways. But hold on, the story doesn't end with just survival. This is where Joseph's plan goes from a simple defensive strategy into an incredible tool for generating wealth and totally restructuring the economy. That reserve becomes an incredibly powerful financial lever. For everybody else who wasn't prepared, the timeline was just devastating. When the famine hit, people from all over came to Joseph to buy grain. First, they spent all their money. When that ran out, they traded their livestock. And when that was gone, they had nothing left to offer but their land, and eventually their own freedom. The result was absolutely staggering. Using that strategic grain reserve as his capital, Joseph effectively acquired all the private assets in Egypt, the money, the livestock, the land, all on behalf of the state. The entire nation's wealth was completely consolidated under Pharaoh's control. It's mind-blowing. But Joseph wasn't some kind of tyrant. What he did next was pure genius. He established a new, sustainable economic system. He gave the people seeds so they could plant the land again, and from that day forward, they would keep 80% of their harvest for themselves. And 20%, yep, there's that magic number again, would go to Pharaoh as a permanent tax. He turned a one-time crisis into a forever stream of income for the nation. So, what this ancient story really gives us is a powerful masterclass in financial planning. It's not just about stashing away some cash. It's about understanding that there are economic cycles and using preparation as a tool not just for security, but for growth. And this is why your personal reserve is so much more than just a savings account. It's your shield against high-interest debt. It's your buffer when you lose your job. It is the absolute foundation of your financial freedom and your peace of mind. It is your personal, strategic plan for the inevitable famines, big and small, that you will absolutely face in your life. The principle is timeless because the cycles of boom and bust are timeless. The 7 years of plenty will always, always be followed by 7 years of famine. So the question this 3,000-year-old story leaves us with is a really simple one. The famine is coming. What's in your storehouse?